Well, Kamish, that is somewhat music to my ears. It's our regular intro to our face-off segment. It's been a while since we've got together for a podcast, but here you are. Welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to have something to talk about.
Yeah, well, actually, we have two topics today um, that you and I kind of got interested in and thought we would split them up into today's podcast. Um, the first story has to do with the NFL and the CFL, and we will get more into it as we go along. And the other one has to do with Jay Williams um, alleging that in the 2002-2003 season, some of his teammates smoked marijuana before games. So you and I thought that was kind of a funny kind of story when we read it. But let's start off with um, what we term flying north, and that is that the NFL, there's reports that the NFL, in their attempt to reduce injuries, specifically more the concussion type injury, have looked into the CFL in the past and currently. One of the things that they found is that the CFL having a field that is about 30 yards wider than the NFL might lend itself to less injuries. The type of violent hit that you see in the NFL, maybe it's due to being a smaller field. One of the questions you and I had offline was, in the CFL, due to the larger field, not only wider, but about, 30 yards, 15 yards on each side, somewhat wider end zones, they have a 12th man in the CFL. And would that translate into the NFL in any way? But I'll let you kind of give some of your feelings on that.
Well, I thought it was a good idea from the
Why?
aspect of it lends credence to the CFL as a league, and I'm only concerned about that. The NFL has established itself. It is the big boy, but the fact that the NFL is looking to the CFL made me feel good for all the CFL supporters out there, and it was kind of like an in your face to those who look down on the game. There are concussions still in the game. There are head injuries that are problems, but that's the nature of football. But I don't think you don't nearly see half as many players getting carted away in a CFL season as you do in an NFL season. And expanding the field, it'll be great for a guy like Mark Trestman, who's also infiltrated the head coaching ranks. I think it's going to based on, I read this on Bleacher Report. I was just looking at the comments that people are making, and they're basically saying, well, it's turning into a flag football league. Why don't we just stop playing football? These guys don't understand how exciting the game will be. They're also saying a guy like Tom Brady will throw for 1,000 yards. Isn't true. They're going to have to just have a different style of player. I think we were talking about a guy like Wilfork in New England. He'll become obsolete. You don't need a 300-pound nose guard.
It'll be a different game, and one of the things, and let's remind some of these folks, our American friends, that the Canadian game is a 3-down game. So what we've had in the history of the CFL game is a passing game. Its history has been passing. You've got, let's say, 2 downs to get a first down or to get close enough to go on it for 3rd down. You can't run the ball. It can't be like a prototype to rugby in a sense. We've seen with the emergence of some new types of players in the NFL, we've seen the NFL game becoming more passing. So while defense is important, teams that don't have a quarterback that can pass the ball down the field or is more mobile to be able to do it, like an RG3 type of player, teams aren't able to move the ball. So what this will lend itself into, and I'm with you, is more excitement. Some history here. I grew up with the CFL game. I love the CFL game. I've lived in the United States for many years now. I love the NFL, but let's be honest. They're two different games. They're distinct games. There's exciting parts to each game, right? The CFL game excites me because of the offense, because it's exciting. it's a great game. It's a game that down to the last minute, you can't, unless you're up by 20 points, you can't run out the clock. That's another thing I don't think the NFL will do, but a shorter clock, meaning that you have to have the play in within 25 seconds, right? That's the
Yeah, well, they're not looking at changing that, but
right. But you have excitement in the CFL.
that's true.
It's a different game. All right. Let's not compare the NFL to the CFL. Those people who are making comments are people probably have never watched a CFL game. If you want to call it flag football, you have the NFL that says they're getting close to eliminating the kickoff. Okay. Well, that's darn right flag football if you ask me. Okay. So
yeah, there's no need to eliminate a kickoff in the CFL. And you know what? For those who haven't watched CFL, there have been some amazing CFL return men. A couple of them might even know, like Rocket Ismail, came up to the CFL. He was a great return specialist. There was Henry the Gizmo Williams, who did some time in Philadelphia before coming back to the Eskimos. He was unbelievable. And perhaps the best one was Pinball Clemens.
right.
Like, you're telling me those guys weren't exciting, and you lose a kickoff.
Well,
you basically lost the kickoff, the excitement of the kickoff in the NFL, because they kick it through the uprights, basically. What they should actually do.
I want to say one thing, too.
What's that?
The transition of some CFL players, and we're talking a few here, to the NFL has been pretty decent. You hear every year there's a couple football guys that we've watched during the CFL season, and the next year they make it to the NFL. But when you look at the transition, and I'm going to say primarily the running back type game, we've had a couple running backs come to the CFL game, and they haven't panned out. Now, I don't know if Ricky Williams, I believe he came to the CFL game, and the Ganja man, maybe the grass up there down there isn't as good. I don't know, but he did squat. Okay, so it's not like this is a bush league where you throw in this great NFL player, and all of a sudden he becomes the biggest star in the world. It's a different game. Unless you can understand the game, you don't do well in it. All right? And that's what I get mad about. There's certain things about the CFL we're not going to talk about in this podcast that I don't like. Okay? But
I was actually going to say the NFL should adopt your favorite thing, which is the rouge on the kickoffs now. And if the guy can put it through the uprights, they should get rouge.
Don't get me started with incompetency. Seriously,
wow.
This right now we are talking the positives of the CFL, which overall I think is great. We're talking about that it's a good game. I don't want to talk about the rouge. Let's be honest. People can Google rouge for all they want. I'm not going to talk about it. This podcast it just annoys me. But the CFL game has tons of good things in it. And you know what? Well, it was about 2 seasons ago. I started watching. It's been a couple of years since I actually was watching Bomber games. Right, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the team I grew up with, our team, and I started watching more. And part of it was because we have a Bombers update, and you and I would sometimes watch. You'd watch at home. I'd watch at home. We'd kind of talk about it as the game was going through. There's a lot of exciting things in the CFL game, and you're talking about a guy, me, who really for the last 15 years, 16, 17 years, has been focused primarily on the NFL game.
That's right. You turned your back on the CFL. I almost turned my back on you.
But and I love the NFL game. I really do. But am I going to say I love one over the other? I don't think you can do that because you can't compare. They're great for what they are. Both leagues are great for what they are. But I'll say this. If widening the field adds 1, excitement, and 2, reduces injury, I think it's a no-brainer. And I don't think you have to say that the NFL is doing anything that's weakening its game. What you can't say for the CFL is kudos to the CFL that there's an element in the game that might actually be positive to the NFL game. And I think we should take it for what that is.
Well, no, I agree. I think, again, I don't want to restate what you've stated, and I think it's a good idea if they widen the field in the NFL. Things have gotten too predictable. It's time for a change. Look how excited they are that you got a couple quarterbacks that can now run the ball. That's been happening in the CFL for years. You can't compare the two games. The NFL does get, in general, the better players or players more suited for that league. The bigger players, maybe stronger players, maybe some faster ones. But at the end, the CFL has some great athletes. At the end of the day, they're two separate games. The NFL has to do something to mitigate the damage that's happening, and this might be one of the ways. Removing the kickoff, I would agree with. I would rather see them widen the field than take the kickoff out of the game.
I
The
would
way they
too.
basically have.
But widening the field might actually be a reason not to take away the kickoff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to with a wider
The
field.
collisions are not as violent. They're still violent. So for those guys that are living just to see two guys smack heads and get crushed, that'll still happen. Trust me, it happens in the CFL. But yeah, I think it would change the type of play. The NFL would have a different style of player in the league. Anyway, I think we should go on to another story because.
All right. This one. We don't know the merit of the story, but you and I read a story on Sports Illustrated yesterday. Former Chicago Bulls player Jay Williams claims that during the 2002-2003 season, some of his teammates smoked marijuana before games. Now, when you and I first read that story, we were laughing. We thought it was hilarious, right? That was our initial reaction to it. I don't want to talk for you. I'm going to tell you what my reaction. I know what your reaction, but I'll let you speak for yourself. After the dust settled, like 1 or 2 minutes, I really started thinking, seriously, how unprofessional is that? Smoking marijuana at work, because that's what they're doing. Smoking marijuana at work. Come on. I mean, there are people that pay for the games. All right? And they wasted their money because we know the Bulls were something like 30-52 that year, and they finished 6th place in what was the 8-team Central Division. All right? They were pathetic. So if the allegations are true, the marijuana didn't help them at all, as we saw. But anyway, I'll let you kind of say what you want on that.
Well, no, I think we were talking about this off air. I would be really mad if I was a season ticket holder because, we get upset at them taking performance enhancing drugs. And, I mean, whatever, that could affect them down the road after their careers. But ultimately, they're trying to do something to make them a better, in their mind, which makes them better, stronger, faster, and be able to compete. But, I think we all know that marijuana takes you out of the game. And as the article said, they were focused on getting popcorn and picking up girls, not on winning games.
Does anybody smell the popcorn? I think was one quote that Williams put out there.
So, there's a whole culture behind this. The fact that marijuana is not legal has made it the cool thing to do, and you have celebrities around the world, glorifying it and all this kind of thing. And it just, I don't know, to me it bothers me. When you have little kids, I still think it's a gateway drug. I'm not going to get into
I agree.
my personal opinion of drugs. I mean, I do say no. I haven't ever said yes to it, and I don't get it. But to do it as a professional, if they actually did this before a game, those guys should be giving some of their paychecks back to their team or repaying the hard-paying fans of Chicago. And you know what? My gut is that if the Bulls are doing it, the NBA is pretty much known for being that kind of league. There's other teams that might have been doing that too, and it could explain a lot about those games where you don't have to really check in until the last 5 minutes.
Well, I agree. I'm with you. I've said no my whole life. All right. I don't see the allure of it. And that's, let's not get into that political discussion. That's just my own personal viewpoint, and I'm not going to judge anybody else. What I will judge is if you do it at work. All right. We have worker safety. We have companies that test their employees, okay, for drug use. So, it's not like other businesses don't do it. It's not like other businesses tolerate any form of drugs, being it marijuana, alcohol, or any other drug, or any other narcotic, okay? It's not allowed. Okay. Why should it be allowed on the basketball court? I just think, as I said, some of the quotes at first made me laugh, all right? as I went further, I was like, they're working. They're earning a paycheck. And most of them are earning a paycheck well above what I make in a year or what you make in a year in one game. So I'm thinking, and not that should matter because doesn't matter if you're earning $30,000 a year, that the average American earns, or 35, whatever it is, or you're earning that per game. When you're at work, don't take drugs, don't drink alcohol, and do your best. What is it that you have to take marijuana before a game? I just don't get it. It's not professional.
I agree. It's not professional.
It's actually ridiculous. I'm laughing the other way. How dare they take drugs during the game? And you say, well, it's before the game. That's during the game. The amount of hours it takes that marijuana to leave your bloodstream is more than an NBA game. You're probably still high after the game.
Well, I think here's the fact. I mean, I don't care that, whether it's marijuana or cocaine or it was they had 6 beers before the game. They're paid to play a game, and they shouldn't be doing it while impaired.
I agree. It's just, the product is dwindled when they do that, and I don't know now that they know this. Now I don't think the players are going to agree to it because the players are the players. But something to say that every single player is drug tested prior to the game. I'm all for it. Now they're not probably, which I wonder why not. But if they were tested before a game and you couldn't play that game if you test positive, I think why not?
To me, it's just more of a sad state of affairs when you're these pot advocates are saying, it's not addictive and, it's just a recreational drug. Well, if these guys need it before a game, they can't wait till after the game. I would say that is an addictive drug, and it took over and took control. And yeah, I mean, I guess we can't really beat this dead horse because it's we both agree on this. And yeah. I would just like to know how rampant it is in the NBA and even NFL. Throughout sports, who knows where it's at. I think I relayed the story to you earlier. I even saw some fans before a Winnipeg Jets game getting high outside the arena. I'm like, okay, so they want to legalize this stuff?
Well, you know what my response was? I think that was after, I don't know if it's true or not, after a couple losses. And I was like, hey, maybe they need it with the Winnipeg Jets, with the way they were playing up until their recent wins. But here's the deal. And just one more thing. There used to be a show on ESPN. I don't know if you guys got it on TSN in Canada. I don't even remember the show. It was a show about professional football on ESPN. It was great, and it was focusing on what happens in the game, everything. And one of them was this player who would shoot drugs into himself like an hour or two before the games, and then drive to the game and play it, right? And we focused on this guy's drug addiction. I think it was heroin. And then, because of the relationship with ESPN and NFL, and I'm going to allege this, I don't know if this is 100% true, the show disappeared.
Oh, really?
And what I had read is the belief behind that is it was so close to reality that the ESPN forced it off the air.
Well, you know what? Again, this is all the more reason for
and parents. I don't have evidence of that.
Well, but it's all the more reason for parents out there to stop. Don't let your kids look up to these people. You be the role model. They live in a different world than us. They're exposed to different things, and it's not always the right way.
Exactly, and on that's a great way to end this podcast, Commish. Well, we'll say is let's meet up here next week and do another one of these and see what else in the sports world catches our eye and our fancy. Anyway, thanks for joining us on this podcast. And hey, Commish, have a great week.
I tell you that, man. I don't feel nothing, man.
You too. Have a great week, and, well, we'll see you next time.
All right.